Okay, I think we can get started. Cool. Welcome everyone to today's CSB Application Q&A webinar. Can people hear me all right? Awesome. My name is Ivy Liu and I'm a second year CSB student. I think we're gonna start with a round of intro first. So all the panelists who are present, can we just quickly go over their names and what year they are? I see Eton on my screen, so you're gonna go next.
Great. My name's Eton. I'm a first year CSB. Excited. How about Mac next?
Hi, I'm Mac. I'm a second year. I'm in Poulin Lee's lab. Advait, you're next.
Hi, I'm Advait. I'm a second year in Ben Zhang's lab in the chemistry department. Ifra next.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ifra. I'm a fourth year PhD student in Ernest Frankel's lab. About Vikram next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vikram. I'm a second year PhD student in Kevin Esvelt's lab. How about Emma?
Hi, everybody. My name is Emmanuel, or Emma. I am also a first year student. I'm still doing my rotations. And how about Ivy? Or, sorry, Anne.
Yeah, I guess I'm last. Hi, everyone. I'm Annie. I'm a second year grad student currently in Eric Ohm's lab in the bioengineering department.
Awesome. I forgot to mention, I'm in Alex Shalick's lab in the chemistry department. So without further ado, let's get started. So just some disclaimer to begin with. This webinar has been organized by only current CSB graduate students to answer questions about the program and MIT. So our views do not necessarily represent the views of the graduate admissions community. So agenda for today is quite simple. We're gonna go over more logistics up next, and people are gonna take an overview of the CSB program. We're gonna walk through the application timeline and give you some tips and suggestions for a successful application. And we're gonna go in more depth about how to write a great personal statement. In the end, we're gonna have a Q&A session where all the panelists can answer some questions that you have. So logistic-wise, please use Slido to upload existing questions and also add your own questions. And the QR code is on the right. You can also find the link on the slide. So this Zoom will be auto-captioned, and we're gonna record this and upload the recording later to our website.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vikram, and I'm going to be giving you a brief overview of MIT Computational and Systems Biology. Computational and Systems Biology at MIT is an interdisciplinary program that sits between a number of different departments. On one side, we have the biology and bioengineering departments, and on the other side, we have the computer science department and other fields like math and engineering. So many students in the CSB program will do research that sits at the intersection of these different disciplines. There are a large number of research areas that are available in the Computational and Systems Biology program, and these range from everything like molecular and structural biology to machine learning, to biophysics, to chemical biology, to evolutionary biology. If you want to get an idea of what research is available in the program, you should take a look at the link on the slide, which leads to a website that shows you a description of all the different areas of research that are available and a list of the 60 participating faculty that are currently affiliated with the CSB program. It's important to note that if you're a graduate student in CSB, you are allowed to work with any faculty at MIT, not just faculty officially affiliated with the program. So we encourage you to also look at departments like biological engineering, biology, ECS, or anything even further out that may have faculty that are aligned with your research interests. Here's an overview of the requirements for the CSB program. The first two rows are coursework and rotation requirements that you will mostly complete in your first and second years. There's CSB 100, which is a core seminar series that you take with all the CSB first years in fall. There is a computational biology and a biology requirement out of a couple of listed courses that you can look at on the website. You're required to do 3 rotations in your first year across fall and spring before you make a decision about what lab to pick. And you're also required to take 4 electives, which you'll complete in your first and second years. There are a few other requirements. You're required to TA for graduation, not for your funding. This usually happens in your second year, either in the fall or the spring. You're required to complete a qualifying exam that is basically a written proposal and an oral exam based on your proposal. You're required to complete ethics training, and obviously you're required to do thesis research and defend your thesis. CSB students have choice to choose between wet lab rotations and labs that are more experimentally focused and dry labs that are more computationally focused. And we encourage students to explore rotations that are on any part of the spectrum and choose projects that incorporate both experimental and computational components. Here's an overview of where you can expect to end up as a CSB graduate student. So this is a pie chart of where our alumni have ended up in the past. Around half of our alumni end up in academic positions, either in a postdoc or some professorship position. A smaller proportion of our alumni end up in scientific positions outside of academia, like biotech positions, and there are a few other extraneous positions like consultancy or law school.
Okay, thank you, Vikram. So my name is Emmanuel, and I'm gonna be giving a quick overview of the application timeline. So first thing first, the documents that you need to submit for your application. We start with 3 recommendation letters. They all need to be submitted electronically, and we ask that at least 2 of them be academic. These recommendation letters are usually submitted by the professor, so you would need to put in their email. It's important that you give them a little bit of time so that they're able to write the letter and then go through the portal and be able to submit them electronically a little bit ahead of the application deadline. In addition to that, you need to submit an official transcript from your undergraduate institution. And if the transcript does not have a clear description of your courses, then you also need to fill out the subjects that you've taken, and this is put into the application once you're filling it out online. Obviously, you need to fill out the online application, which can be found on the CSB website. You need to write up a personal statement. The prompt for this is also on the CSB application, and we will be talking about that. And then if you're an international student, they ask for an English language proficiency test or a waiver if you assisted a US-based institution for your undergrad. So the deadline for fulfilling the online application is midnight on December 1st, Eastern Standard Time, so make sure to keep track of that. You are responsible for ensuring that all the documents are submitted on time. Any application that is incomplete will not be reviewed by the admissions panel. There is no separate application for financial support, meaning that if you get an offer, you will be funded in the program throughout your time here. And something that is just happened recently, the CSB program does not use a standardized GRE as part of the application process. So how has MIT CSB has considered the COVID-19 impacts? So the CSB admissions panel will take a holistic approach to reviewing the applications, meaning that any disruption to classes or research activity due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic will be taken into account. So if you were worried about, many people were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, just know that the admissions panel will be taking that into consideration while reviewing your application. And how does that timeline look after you submit your application? So again, applications are due online on December 1st at midnight. Interview notifications are usually sent out mid-January of the following year. And then if you get an offer for an interview, these dates are actually official. February 11 and the 18 are 2 separate dates to do your interviews. You can choose either the 11th or the 18th, depending on what fits your schedule. And once you go through interviews, it's around mid-March to mid-April that you will be receiving that you hopefully will be receiving an offer. And then you have until April 15 to make an official decision of what graduate school you'll be pursuing. And this April 15 date is actually a date that the Council of Graduate Schools, so graduate schools across the US, have agreed on making this like the official deadline for making your decision.
Very cool. Awesome. So now we're going to get into some tips and suggestions for successful applications. And before we get into this, I just want to say there's no right way to do it. Even as we made these slides, the panelists, we talked about it and we realized we all had kind of different strategies. So these are just some kind of general tips that are, I think, good advice overall, but just know that there are many different ways to do it. Yeah. So first thing, I think we'll just get into personal statement of objectives. Again, I saw there's a lot of Slido questions and Q&A questions about asking for advice. So we're going to give our best advice. And if we don't cover exactly your question, please ask again, but be a bit more specific. This is our advice. So if you have any specific question about personal statements, you can address it in the Q&A. But anyways, personal statement should be roughly 2 pages. Should be, that's our recommendation. This is a structure that works well, I think. So if we hit the next slide, the very first thing to talk about is who are you? Why are you curious about science? Why should I be curious about you? So this is kind of the like you want a bumper sticker, like who are you? What is your background? Maybe a little bit more personal, just something to help stick in the mind of the people reading these applications. I'm sure they see many hundreds, so it can't hurt. And then something that's a bit more logistically, if you can get within the first couple of sentences, talk about which specific area you're interested in, that actually would help a lot, I believe. Just because, like I said, there's many people who apply many different interest areas, and we want to make sure that our faculty can read what is relevant to them. So if you say, okay, I'm very interested in machine learning and biological networks, maybe you'll get to be read by Professor Ernest Frankel, and that's good. It helps triage. So if you can just be a bit specific about what really interests you at the very beginning, that's helpful for us. Yes. So next is, this is getting into the meat of it. So how have your research experiences shaped you? And then this is kind of getting into the nitty gritty, exactly like what is your background that makes you a good fit? And a couple of things here. First is that quality is better than quantity. Don't list your whole CV. Like, we have your CV. That's the whole reason for the CV. Don't list all your experiences. List the experiences that are most relevant for this specific program, for what you want to do, for the research that really interests you, that MIT CSB offers. And also, like, specifically MIT CSB offers. So I think we'll have some links later on with examples, but I can give you examples. One thing that's really important here is to really quantify. Don't just leave it vague. Don't say, okay, I was a mentor in my department. Say, okay, I mentored 3 students. We met twice a week, and this is how I helped them concretely. Or, I wrote a library to, if you're going to say I coded something and it solved my problem, don't just say that. Say, like, I created this 2,000 line long library that specifically applied Fourier transforms to mice EEG data, something along those lines. Just be very specific. It helps you write, and it also helps our readers, I believe. Yes. What else? One other thing is, it's good for people to see problem solving. I think this is something that we mentioned as panelists, that grad school is about solving problems that necessarily haven't been solved before, creating new answers. So if you have any narratives about, like, okay, I faced this problem, don't just give the solution. If you can show a bit of your thought process behind it, like, okay, this wasn't working, so I tried this and that eventually worked. That's better than saying this worked, if that makes sense. It just helps people get into your mind a bit and see how your mind works. So that's just some kind of off the cuff advice. Maybe the next one would be helpful. Can we, how does this really? So yeah, you quantify, you say, this is what I've done. These are the relevant things I've done. Remember, quality over quantity. But then again, so what? You have to interpret it, like, why does it matter? Okay, I was a mentor. So what? I was a mentor and I loved it, and it taught me that I really like to help other people learn. That's kind of a so what. Or, like, I programmed, so what? Okay, I programmed, but then I really learned that I love applying quantitative methods to biological questions or something like that. You want to bring it back to the so what. Yeah. And then finally, you really, not only are you trying to sell yourself to the program, maybe sell is the wrong word, but like represent yourself to the program, but you also want to make sure that the program is a good fit for you. You do not want to end up in a program that is not a good fit for you. So be sure to do research here. What specifically about the MIT CSB program really attracts you? Is it the fact that we get to do rotations? Is it our amazing faculty? Is it, our great funding? Like, what is it about this program specifically that attracts you? Make sure that you know our program. Like, I think that's very important. And then also very important is, which professors are you interested in? At the end of the day, a PhD program is a specialization. You'll be spending many, many years with one advisor. So you want to make sure that there's many advisors here that you'd be happy to work with. So list specific people. That's my recommendation. List 2 to 3, 3 maybe professors that you're interested in working with. Talk about their work. Talk about how your work jives with their work. Next slide. Lay out your trajectory, what, when, how, why. This was partly one of the things that we realized there are many different ways to approach this. So you can go and say, okay, I want the PhD because I want to be a professor, or, I know I want to do research. I really want to do research. We all want to do research if you want to apply for a PhD, but you can have your trajectory in mind. You can be a bit more, okay, there's just many ways to do it, but just very importantly, be sure to convey that you have thought about why a PhD is important, that you're not just applying to PhD because you don't know what else to do. PhD is a huge commitment of time and energy, not only from us as the students, but also from the department, which is, giving a spot to one PhD student, therefore not allowing the opportunity for other people. So just make sure that you have a strong reason why you want to do a PhD, and then some vision of what you want to do with it. Yes. Great. Yeah. So some examples. This is like a great quantitative iterate 27 microfluid designs, resulting in a 3-fold increase in RNA captured from clinical samples. That's great quantification. You don't want to be willy-nilly said, through microfluid designs, I came up with RNA. I came up with better RNA analysis. You don't want to do something that's kind of like wishy-washy. And then in future work, I'm excited to continue utilizing this, is kind of quantifying this, saying, so what? This is how I want to fit into the program. And then this is great, specifically the Manellis or Blaney labs. That's great. You know our program. Yes. Next slide, please. So that was tips on the personal statement. Maybe some general tips. Your CV should be 2 to 3 pages long. It should include, it should be basically as much as possible you on paper, your education, your GPA. That means your GPA, your school, your majors, and then of course any research experience, publications, awards, and teaching experiences, maybe even volunteering. Be very concrete here. If you thought I was joking about being concrete in the personal statement, I'm doubly not joking about being concrete in your CV. Be very concrete, and it has to be skimmable. People are going to only spend 30 to 60 seconds reading your CV, so just make sure you can read quickly. One point here, so our program is very biological and quantitative focused. So if you haven't taken that much fundamental biology, like if you haven't taken Bio 101, that you want to be sure to address how you compensate for that missing area, either your CV or your personal statement. And then one final tip here is just for faculty conversations and for the interviews. It really helps prepare. It really helps me practice with friends for nerves, and also just to get used to speaking about your points. Try to prepare for obvious questions. If you know something's coming, like I worked in industry for a couple of years before going back to school, and every interview asked me, why did you do that? So just if you know a question's coming, prepare for it. It's good to know your interviewer's research, or the faculty that you're talking to is research, so that you can interface with them, because that's what gets them really excited. And just try to have fun with it, even though it can be stressful. Great. Okay, and finally, here is just a list of helpful websites and links. Most of them are linking to MIT Com Lab. I encourage you to look into these. We'll be posting a recording of this talk afterwards, so that's a good way to find it. And I want to draw your attention to the 4th link here, the Google Doc spreadsheet link. Really, really wonderful resource. It lists around 200 good personal statements that were accepted to the NSF Graduate Research Fellowship Program. So just, really good. The best way I think to write a good research, good statement of objectives is just to read a lot of good statement of objectives. Great. Thank you. We're going to go take the audience Q&A. I think before we do that, we'll probably just reintroduce ourselves, and maybe also introduce Jackie, who just joined. And then I'll pull up the audience Q&A, then we can take it one by one. But maybe quickly, Jackie really helped us put this all together. So thank you, Jackie. Maybe you can give a quick introduction.
Oh, hi, everybody. I'm Jackie Karada, and I am the academic administrator for CSB and also for the microbiology program as well. I've been in this role since 2013, and I've been, or actually maybe it was more like 2012, and I've been with MIT for 15, almost 16 years. And I really enjoy working with the students. They have so much energy, and I learned so much from them, especially, having a minimal science background. I did study neurobiology at Simmons. So I I can gather a little bit from the science, but I'm always happy to chat with students and learn more about what they're doing. And everyone has been super, super friendly in the program. So very blessed to be a part of it.
I think we're very blessed to have you, Jackie. So maybe, yeah, I don't know. We already gave an introduction. I guess maybe it doesn't make sense to give another introduction. Should we just jump into the questions then? Does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone want to do something before that?
Actually, let's do a poll of like where people are in terms of application cycle. Like, are they applying this year or not?
Oh, yes.
Just quickly launch that poll.
Sounds good. This will just help us, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, to get an idea of like who is here in the audience.
Wow, I've never seen a poll fill this quickly. It's amazing.
While the
What's
poll
to
is
say?
going, I just want to make a quick correction that I learned during the presentation from Jackie. So apparently the application doesn't ask for their CVs. So you're expected to have the information from the CV already contained in the application, whether that's in the portal, in the different boxes, or in your personal statement. So yeah, like the other programs might ask for your CV, so this advice is still helpful, but for the CSB program specifically, we don't require a CV.
Okay, great. But I remember there's maybe a place to fill out like line by line, maybe the parts of your CV. Yeah. Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah. Yeah, so as I mentioned about in the application requirements, the subjects taken is part of that, of what Advi just said. It's going to also ask you for teaching experiences and other information, kind of like copy pasting your CV into the application, kind of.
Great. Well, thank you for that clarification. I should have checked. I know, I can't believe I forgot. Should we do the Q&A then? I think the poll is mostly over.
Yeah,
now.
I think we end the poll now and we can see the results.
Great. Cool.
Cool. So it seems like most people are applying this year, and there are a couple who are applying later. But this is going to be very good information for either way. So
yeah. Okay, I'll go through the Q&A. So we're using the Slido. I think the link is in the chat, but we'll just be going through the questions that are posted before the webinar, and then the questions that were posted during the webinar. This is like the meat of our webinar, so we're going to spend as much time as possible on this. So I'm just going to get started. Are there suggested background, knowledge, or research experiences for the mid students? What are some of the things that made you choose MIT CSB over the other schools? This is one of the originally posted questions. I'm just going to bounce this to somebody who has a good answer. Maybe Vikram?
Yeah, okay. So I wouldn't say that there's any like core background knowledge that you need to have or core research experience that you need to have. You need to be able to present a convincing case that you can do research in computational biology in whatever area of computational biology you are interested in on the application, and that you will be a successful researcher. And that will differ based on like what you're interested in and what research you plan on doing and what you've already done. So there's no like clear suggested knowledge, and I don't even think like there's a consistent like background that the admitted students have either.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And then we can all, I mean, as to like, why are some things that made us choose MIT CSB over other schools? I think we probably all have our different answers. And I think maybe we can quickly do a rapid fire. Like I chose it really strongly because of the research. I think there's a lot of wonderful research here that's very focused on AI, on chemoinformatic data sets, atomistic simulation. That's why I chose it. Really excited about that. And then if anyone else wants to jump in.
Yeah, so I can jump in. So my background is actually kind of in both molecular biology and computer science. I actually applied to the microbiome program at MIT in the biology. But the reason why I chose CSB is because I feel like it gave me sort of like a fundamental approach to both areas of research in terms of like that slide we just saw of like the wet lab versus the dry lab. Personally, that's the approach that I take to my scientific work. I like thinking about both the scientific experiments that I'm doing on the bench, but also thinking about what are the best computational approaches, and also have the ability to design my own software and pipelines, or not to that extreme, but just analyze my own data. So I felt like CSB sort of like offered me the opportunity to do both. And you could also specialize in either one of those, but for me it was like standing in between those two areas. I feel like the CSB program did really well in that.
Nice. I'm realizing now we have a ton of questions. We're gonna go quickly. Let's see what else we got. Hello, I'm a student looking to apply in my undergraduate degree in biology. Since graduating, my interests have reoriented. I've expanded my horizons through different research experiences. However, I have not taken advanced mathematics courses beyond calculus. I was wondering how that might impact my chances of admission to the CSB program. Emmanuel, I remember you had a good answer to that.
Yeah, so I'm very much in the same position. I only took calculus in freshman year, then I didn't touch a quantitative math course for a while until I came here to MIT. Now I'm taking probability in the engineering department, which is a fun time. But basically, you have the like, I don't think it's gonna affect your chances to getting into the program, because what's more important is that you do research and you show that you have ability to think quantitatively, or at least, like, for example, like know how to code. But also have like the fundamental biology, a little bit of the fundamental biology knowledge. And you have the opportunity to make up for those kind of like weaknesses when you come into MIT. So keep in mind that if you don't have such a strong background, such as I do, you have the opportunity to take the classes here at MIT to be able to supplement those weaknesses. So yeah, but in terms of affecting your admissions process, I don't think that's such a huge factor. It's important that you just show that you have some sort of intuition in both, but it's certainly not like our class has people from math backgrounds. We also have from physics background. We also have biology backgrounds like me, molecular bio. So very much it's across the board.
Great. I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to try to share the questions being asked, so that's okay with everyone. I'll just zoom this in. Okay. I think this is a good question for Ivy.
So actually, I think all the students are automatically getting funded for the first year we're on fellowship. I think there's different funding source, but every admitted student will be guaranteed funding for their entirety of PhD. And when you're looking for labs after the first year, you are also being asked to look for a lab that can fully fund you. Yeah.
Yes. Great. I'm going to skip all the questions regarding the personal statement unless they're a little bit more nuanced, because I think we covered a lot. Another question perhaps for Ivy.
This actually, can Jackie take this one? Because so for people who have studied in the US for undergrad, or who has attended like an English-based institute, I think the requirement for English language proficiency is waived. I'm not exactly sure if we do give out conditional offers or anything like that.
No. Can someone point me to where the question is, just so I can read it?
Sure. Is it not on screen? Hello, I'm an international student applying to this program. Am I not sharing my screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's so small.
You are.
Oh,
Can you read it out loud?
Yeah. Can you zoom in?
Yes.
There it is.
I'm an international student concerned applying to your program. My question is, does the program give conditional offers to students who do not fulfill the minimal score for English language proficiency?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. We don't offer that. So it is in your best interest to completely fill out the application by the deadline. If you don't have your scores in, your application will be reviewed. They'll review everything. They may ask me the committee may ask me to reach out to you and ask you where your scores are. And if that does happen, great. But it's unlikely that you'd be invited to interview if you don't have everything in by the deadline. So we do ask that everyone plan ahead and submit everything on time. We receive, well over 350 applications every year, and we generally only invite 26 to 30 students to interview. So it's a very hard process to go through. So if folks really need to have everything in to be fully considered for the program.
Nice, thank you. Cool. I'm gonna keep going. I think we have a lot of questions to go through. So another quick question: systems immunology. I know that's a new area. Maybe Jackie can speak to this as well. Yeah, I don't think it's on the. I looked through the application portal and it's not on one of the drop downs for the subtopics that you're interested in yet. But yeah.
Yeah, so systems immunology is just a new research area that was that we created, and it was actually a new faculty member who is enthusiastic about CSB. His name is Hari Wang, and he suggested that we add this area. So we will be, I have reached out to our grad apply folks, asking them to add this area of research. Unfortunately, they didn't add it when we did request. So I'm asking them again, but it is just a research area that some of our faculty who are involved in are, working in. So like Harry Wong and Alex Shalik, for example. So those are two faculty who we would associate with this research area, but it's not anything you can apply to. But if you want to mention it in your application that you're interested in this research area, that's great. That would be helpful. But we are working as fast as we can to get that back into the application. So my apologies.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, maybe just mention it very quickly so they can, at the very beginning of the personal statement, so they can triage you to the right readers. Okay, I'll keep going with this. What were your fears while applying to PhD programs? Maybe I'll popcorn this to Mac. What were your fears?
I think it's a difficult time because you really have to look inward and figure out what your interests are, and also look at programs and find the best match for you. So I'd say everyone's fears are going to be different, but you should just present yourself as who you are and figure out what you want to do.
Yeah, great answer. Okay, I'm going to keep going in the interest of time. I'm a student, so maybe I'll popcorn this to Advait.
Yeah, so the question is, I'm a student at the major in the life sciences, but have experience with bioinformatics and AI. Am I still eligible? And the answer is absolutely. I think this is a really good background because you have both the biology background and computational background. So you're actually like really well prepared. And yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Fully fund the entire PhD for overseas student. I'll ask Ivy again because she's our international student on the panel.
This I'm actually not aware of. Does Jackie know anything about this? Do we have fellowship that particularly fund international student, or like does not restrict to citizens?
So there are fellowships that international students can apply for. And I think a lot of them, I think you have to be here first at MIT because our Office of Graduate Education works with the departments to go through the applications for certain scholarships that MIT offers for international students. There are, other international fellowships that you can apply to, Fulbright being an example, there's, some that are specific to the country in which the student is coming from, like NSERC for Canada, and there's different ones for Hong Kong and Germany, and so you can apply to those all on your own. But the ones that come from MIT, you have to be an MIT student first before you can apply to those.
Great. Just to clarify, I think all students of the CSB program, no matter whether you're international or from America or anything, you get fully funded throughout your whole PhD. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah, I think, right? Just to clarify that. So does an applicant need a master's degree? Should I ask Vikram?
No, you don't need a master's degree.
Great. Nice and easy answer. Okay, this is a very complicated question.
Wait, let me add something to the previous question. So you also don't necessarily need like work experience in industry. I applied directly from my bachelor's, and I had research experience in undergrad. I graduated and I immediately came here. So just give an example.
Yes, thank you. And also, if anyone has answer they want to chime into, feel free to jump in. I'm just kind of taking people's names off the list. Can I ask Annie for this answer? It's a very complicated question. Yeah.
I think, as you know, the reality is, unfortunately, for international students, it's a different game than for domestic students because of funding, and it seems like you're aware of that. Unfortunately, I can't say what exactly the statistics or the chances is going to be for any given student. As you know, this as you've done the research, this program is selective, but in the end, it's really difficult to say. It really depends on the people, the things going on. I would encourage anybody to still apply because you will not get anywhere that you won't get into where you don't apply. And yeah, just I would encourage everybody to not be scared by the statistics, because very much every year there are people who get admitted, and you could be one of these people.
Yes. Okay, last question. The polls for practice the CSB program engage in to promote diversity and inclusion. Maybe Araf and Max can talk about that.
There I go.
I'd say one example would be something like what we're doing right now. We'd love for more people to apply to CSB. I think another thing that the CSB program does is, or it's just kind of natural to the program, is that since we're in all different kinds of fields, naturally, there'll be a lot of people, taking part in CSB, and so it's very diverse in that sense. I think there's a lot more we can do, and we're really hoping to do more going forward.
I think the only thing I'll add also, I'm Max, is that CSB is like not a huge program compared to other things that you may be applying to. And so there's really we go on retreats and things. And since there's only 5 to 10 people a year, you really do get to know the people between classes, and it promotes a really good culture and way to include the entire program as one instead of just being your class in a larger program.
That's a great point. And then maybe Max, you can quickly introduce yourself as well. I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, hey guys, sorry I came late. I'm Max. I'm a very, very, very old grad student. Hopefully,
Also, excuse me. Also, the fact that the GRE is not required anymore, that's also part of like promoting diversity and inclusion, so that people who don't have access to the materials to study for the GRE or the money to pay for it, just like I did, I'm a minority student, that's also part of those efforts.
Absolutely.
Also to jump in, this is coming straight from Jackie. We attend SACNAS and ABRCAMS, which are 2 conferences that focus on diversity, and we have a diversity officer. So these are priority areas for our program.
Absolutely. Great. All right, great. So now we can move to Q&A. It seems like we have 64 questions, so there's a lot to go through. Let's start with from the top and we'll work our way down. This is a great question, something that I also had a lot of questions about when I was applying. But let me just, maybe who would be good? Maybe I can ask. Yeah.
I can take it. So yes, contacting professors is kind of scary, and it is relatively unlikely that they will respond until you are actually at least have an interview or are admitted. I would still strongly encourage you to do so, just because if you open those conversations, it can be very helpful for you to get an extra leg up in the admissions process, or for you just to learn about like what people at MIT are doing and how their research interests align with yours and where you could rotate or anything like that. So yes, try, but it's obviously not a required part of the application for a reason, and that's because professors are very busy and they might not respond to you.
I would add also, what's going to be more effective is really targeting your emails. So if you're interested in someone's research, tell them why, tell them that you're interested, tell them how your interests align and your background aligns. That's really going to give you a leg up. Whereas if they get a generic email that seems to be sent to a mass number of professors, that's just not going to be effective, and they won't feel very excited about replying.
Mm-hmm. If you can ask any like specific question about their research, they'll love that. My personal experience, yeah. Great. I'm going to keep going. Should we apply for programs at MIT besides CSB? Did you apply to any other graduate programs at MIT? So I personally applied to 3 at MIT. I applied to ECS, BE, and CSB. I think it was great. I eventually only got interviews for CSB because I think they realized that was the one that I'd be the best fit for. I don't know if anyone else has a experience to share here.
Yeah, I can jump in. I also applied to BE and bio. Well, so here's a caveat. I was going to apply to biology. I think if you like MIT and there's people you want to work with who would be covered under different programs, you can. I would suggest applying to multiple programs. One caveat is like the reason why I ended up not applying for biology, and this applies to any other program, is when I looked through the professors list, I realized I couldn't find 3 professors that I would be really interested in working with. And if you go through a program list and you look at their faculty, and that is the case for you, when you are applying for a lot of other programs, then you might want to decide to drop something like that, because it's a sign that even if you do get in, and this might not be true, but it might not be as good of a fit for your research interests.
Absolutely. All right. Did you have publications before? Yeah, who wants to take this? Anyone?
Yeah, I did not have any publications before, and I don't think that was a disadvantage at all. I think the important thing is explaining what you did in your research and emphasizing your role in that. I think publications can be nice, but that's really not a necessity. I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that.
Yeah. I think that in the personal statement, it's very important that, as my PI always told me, tell the best story about yourself. You know, say what you did, say like the science that you worked on, if it ended in publication or not, but how did it, like, why did you do that research? How does it benefit the community? How did it benefit your lab? And just like tell the best story that you have of yourself and the work that you did and how it aligns. I think that is like way more important than just having publications. It's actually that you grew as a scientist, you grew as a student, and that you know that research is what you want to be doing for the next 5 to 6 years. And also talk about how you having a PhD will like have an impact on our society, because many people can get PhDs, not many people can get PhDs. So why should you specifically get one? You know, tell the best story of yourself. It's like the best thing I can say about the personal statement.
Yeah, very helpful. All right, this is logistics. Does the December 1st deadline apply to recommendations too? Maybe Jackie can answer that one.
Yes, because as soon as the application, the online application closes, the end of December 1st, the graduate admissions committee is going to start looking at all applications.
Okay, very helpful. I see that there's another one down here that asks the same question, so it's definitely a point of confusion. So very helpful thank you, Jackie. CSB personal statement prompts for a proposal for graduate studies. Should we have specific potential research projects in mind and write about them? I think, yeah, this goes back into like knowing which professors you want to work with, and also tying your previous research in with what you want to do at CSB. Like PhD is a specialization, so I think you should have, I don't know, does anyone have a more concrete role here? I think this comes also back to like different strategies. I think there are many different ways to go about this. But yeah.
Yeah, I just add that this is not like your NSF application or whatever. It's not a straight up research proposal. And obviously you have no idea what research you're going to do in your PhD, and it depends on what lab you join. So talking about labs you want to join, fields that you're interested in is okay. Putting together a full research proposal is probably unnecessary and won't help your application.
Yeah, no need for methods. No need to like say, I'll run this experiment and look at that and, titrate this, no need for that. I'm gonna skip this. Does anyone want to take this one? Let's see. How about Ivy? Do you have any thoughts on this?
I feel like this really varies. I would say GPA wise, like you don't want to look too bad, but like I think once you hit certain threshold, I think it doesn't matter anymore. And quantitative courses, that also differs from person to person. It really depends on like what research you want to do and how that fits into your plan for the future. And I think prior research and publications, as we said, publication does not necessarily matter. I think you want to show from your prior research that you're a competent researcher and you know what it takes to become a better scientist or whatever you want to be in the future. Does anyone have a better answer?
What is your opinion? Do you think prior research is necessary? I feel like prior research.
I think prior research is probably the most important part. Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
You gotta know you like to do research, and you can't. Yeah.
Can I add something quickly here?
Sure. Yes, please.
Yeah, I think it's also just being able to, I think there's what's special about CSB is people come from such different and unique profiles, right? So I was a biology major in undergrad and I worked at a biotech startup for 2 years and came here before ever taking a computer science class in my life. My first one ever was here. And so I think it's more being able to take what your experiences is and tell that story that they were talking about and why you want to go to grad school, right? I fell in love with computer science working at this company and I want to now study this and be of your profile.
Great. Great. Just making sure I didn't miss anything. No, yes, I didn't. Okay. I'm going to keep going. What is the acceptance rate? How many people are usually accepted? I think this other question that we saw was a good answer. I don't know where they got those numbers from, but yeah. Does anyone else have a good answer?
I just say you shouldn't worry too much about this. The numbers are always scary for literally every graduate program, but if you're applying and you're like applying broadly enough and you're qualified, you'll get in somewhere. It's okay.
Yeah, I think so too. It almost feels like a different beast than undergrad, where undergrad, I feel like grad schools, you're always like kind of going to get into a place that will work for you. That's at least my personal experience. I don't know about you guys. Just like try not to stress. Gonna skip this a bit too general, I think. What quantifies significant research experience? Does anyone want to take this?
I'll just say you need to be able to present a convincing argument that you want to do research for like 5 years of your life and work on like a long-term research project. And that argument should be convincing to you as well as convincing to the admissions committee. So it's not necessarily like X number of hours in the lab or X number of years or like publications or presentations or whatever. It's more about being able to like present a case for that.
Great. Annie, did you have something else to add as well?
I think Vikram covered basically everything I would have said.
Great. All right, this is a good question, something that we actually discussed a bit. So maybe we can get both sides of opinion on this. How much detail regarding our future career plans and research objectives should we include in the statement of objectives? So yes, does anyone have a strong feeling like this? I think there's many different ways to take this.
I have a strong feeling about this. So I actually put future career plans in my personal statement because I think that it goes back to what I said about what am I gonna do with the PhD once I get it, like, because it speaks to your overall purpose of getting the PhD in the first place. Because just saying, oh, I just love robots or I love science, and I just want to get a PhD because it pays better, that doesn't really give that much purpose to you about having a significant impact with a PhD further on in your career, because not many people have PhDs, right? So it's a very specialized area, it's a very specialized degree, and you can do a lot with it. So it's very important that you just portray yourself as like, I want to get my PhD because I want to, at least I did, like, I want to build a biotech company that helps solve this and this problem. Just something that speaks more to your individual personality of why you specifically want to get the PhD and what are you planning to do with it. At least that's how I see it, but I know that there's like different opinions about if you should include future career plans or not in the personal statement. But I think the 1 or 2 sentences about it really don't hurt.
Yeah.
If I could just add, I think one thing you don't want to do is come across as inflexible in your like idea of what grad school is going to be like, because I think when you join it, anything can hit, like, for us, COVID was a major thing during our grad schools that we didn't plan for at all. So just while you're having a very like clear picture of your future, you also want to indicate that you're flexible or that you've been flexible in the past and you know how to adapt to, obstacles.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I think, yeah, that all makes sense. If anyone wants to chime in, then please do. Otherwise, we'll keep going. Great. Next, how many people are normally selected each year and how large is the applicant pool? I think this is getting into statistics again, and we talked about it before, so I think I'll skip it. Does anyone, yeah, I think we've also talked about this a bit before. At the end of the day, we don't have really detailed statistics. At least we're not privy to it, I think. Does anyone want to talk about it, or should we keep going? Oh, this is nice.
So if I could jump in. We Normally, so due to funding, because we are a small program, we can usually fund 1 to 2 international students a year. And that comes from a fellowship that the program secures for the student or students. In 2012, we had 2 international students. Funny story, they met in the program, fell in love, got married, and have a baby. So that was 2012, but the statistics for each year, we've had 1 international student each year. And we usually invite several international students to interview with us. And we may make 2 offers, and it seems that 1 usually says yes. It's a little like The Bachelor, that show.
Even to the end, you know, even to the happily ever after, perhaps. Cool. This is kind of a nice question. Should you talk about interests outside of CSB to give a more complete picture of yourself? Will that make you look good? I guess this is probably asking for the CV and for the personal statement, right? I can give my input on this. I think in the personal statement, you really shouldn't, I think you should focus more on the research and how you can contribute to the program, what the program means to you and the fit there. In the CV, I included like a line or 2 about like my interests outside of CSB. I don't know if it matters that much. Just what do you guys think?
Okay.
I would say that this is not undergrad and it's not going to help your application. So you may as well use the space in something else.
Okay.
Although
I don't know if I agree with that. I'll just try to if we have another voice. I think it's definitely, at least on a CV, I agree. You shouldn't like focus your essay on this unless it like really, really ties into your story. But I see no reason why on a CV you shouldn't include other things that you're interested in outside of work. I doubt it's a tipping point for anything, but like if you have interesting hobbies or things that you're proud of, the CV is a great place to put that.
Definitely.
I think that there will also be exceptions. It depends on the person, and really, like if you spent 4 years at music conservatory and you want to talk about how that has impacted your, you know, life towards research, I think that that would be really important for your statement. So it really depends.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also will say that during the interviews, like the professors are great and they just are people and they want to talk to people. And I ended up talking about like biking and whatnot. So maybe that's also part of where that comes out through too as well. Great. All right. Can anyone tell me if I missed anything up here? I just want to make sure I didn't lose any questions that appeared after. Should my academic transcript cover GPA? My university officially provides a transcript with all. That's interesting. My transcript definitely included my GPA. Did anyone else not?
Maybe Jackie. Jackie, the transcripts need to, like, if a transcript doesn't include GPA, do they need to calculate it themselves?
No, they can leave it blank. I think, is it Brown University or maybe Yale? There are two universities that I am aware of that do not include a GPA, and so you can leave that blank.
I wonder why. I think it just makes the applicant's life a bit more hard. I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
It does.
What is that? Mission statistics? Okay. I think we kind of answered this already, so I'll keep going. So how's MIT handling COVID? Does anyone want to take this one?
I can briefly talk about it, although you can also, I think there's a website for MIT Medical if you really want to look at details. But yeah, right now, as you can see, some of us are wearing masks. I'm in a enclosed room by myself, which is why I'm not wearing one. But right now it's all masks indoors, except for like when you're eating or in your workspace by yourself. We're all getting tested twice a week. And I think overall the numbers in terms of positive tests have been pretty low. Like at least I saw some numbers and they were in like under 50, I think, per, well, I don't know, per time frame, maybe it was per month. MIT is definitely taking this very seriously. So I've never been concerned about safety here.
And vaccination is required.
Mm-hmm. Also, we're tested twice a week. I think that's important to also say. Yeah.
Yeah. Also to add that the testing is actually pretty great. We get to take home the test kits and then you do the test and then you just leave it at different drop-off spots, which is a really efficient way to get tested twice a week versus what I had in my undergrad, which was just so time consuming. And yeah, vaccinations are required unless you have a good exemption excuse.
I think I'm worried I'm worried I'm losing questions. Can somebody tell me if I'm missing questions that jump up above where I currently am? Okay, so will getting an MS allow a student to bypass some of the course requirements? Who wants to answer? What about Vikram?
Yeah, sure. Since I have a master's, yes, you can skip one course requirement if you have a master's.
Out of our total of
out of 7, it's actually not that big of a deal.
Nice. All right. Next question. What students are highly expected to get admitted in terms of GPA undergraduate courses? Oh, geez. Will say that GPA undergraduate courses are not some of the biggest factors. Does anyone else want to say anything?
Yeah, I'd say that if any student was highly expected to get admitted, and graduate admissions can be pretty random, so that's not really true at all. But if any student were, it would be because of like really significant research impact.
Yes. Yes, I think research is the name of the game for grad school.
If you have a low grades or GPA, you could address that in your personal statement. I think they would expect you to have something short in there about it.
That's really good to hear. Yeah, good point. All right, my paper is in review, but we publish a preprint. Should we add it to that major publication center? I would say yes. Does anyone else have anything to say?
I can address this one. I had the same situation. I just specify like I had 2 sections: in review and those references, and then published, and then the journal and whatnot beneath it. So you could divide it that way. It's all the same though.
Yep. Coming from a computer science background, many articles just get the kind of abandoned archive. So I think, at least in my experience, archive is not great, but better than, yeah, it's definitely presentable. Okay, this is a great question. How should you factor personal situations affecting some stuff in your applications in your personal statement? Will the committee understand? That's a great question. Does anyone have a good answer?
I can try to answer, although certainly I'm not on the admissions committee. Overall, I would say, yes, if you feel like there's something, for example, COVID or some other extenuating circumstances, you can include it as an explanation in your personal statement. Overall, I would say our faculty members they're trying to get students that are good fits, and they're trying to, as best as they can, evaluate even through some of the difficulties that might have impacted your application materials to determine whether or not you're a good fit. So yes, I do think they try to be understanding as much as they can be based off of a paper application, which the reality is it's yeah, sometimes difficult, but the short answer is yes.
From my personal experience, my research was disrupted because of COVID. And I talked about that in my personal statement. I explained how I handled it, why did it get disrupted, and what did I do to be able to come out better from the other side, how I handle my research and all that. So it's definitely something that you should speak about in your personal statement, but also like talk about what did you do to help overcome that specific barrier. I think that actually tells a really good story.
Great point. Sorry. Okay, this one jumped up a bit. Are interviews in person or virtual? That's a good question. Do we know?
We're planning to have in-person open houses, but that could change. So we are preparing just in case we need to go virtual. We just don't know how COVID will play out in our area. And if it will be safe to bring folks into MIT. So we are monitoring the situation, and probably before invitations go out, we will of course be able to answer that definitively.
Yes, that's like really exciting. I think the last 2 years have both done virtually, so it'd be very wonderful to have in person, I think. Yeah. Sorry. Here. Our unofficial trip. Yes. Okay. Maybe this also is a good question for Jackie.
So unofficial transcripts from the institution. Yes, you. So any transcripts that you upload to your application we consider those unofficial because the student or applicant is uploading them. Official transcripts, you can hold off and you don't have to send them to us until you've received word on the status of your application. So if you've been invited, we would ask you to have your school send us the official transcript, either by mail, or we can accept it by email as well. But anything you upload, any language scores or transcripts, they're all considered unofficial because the student or applicant has done it.
Nice. Thank you. This is another question we've got. So I'm realizing we get many questions for like, what are your typical students accepted in the program? Like what are typical profiles? Maybe it could be helpful for us to go through and just introduce ourselves in terms of the application that like who we were when we were applicants back in the day. Do you think that'd be helpful? Would people be willing to do that? Okay. I'm going to start. I applied last year and I was out of undergrad for 4 years working in tech. I only had one publication when I was working in tech, and before that did some research, but never amounted to any publications. I actually didn't have much of a bio background at all, very computer science heavy and a bit of chemistry. So that's kind of where I'm from, very diverse, as you'll find out, the very diverse set of people. Yeah. Does anyone else want to give their background?
Sure, I guess I'll give the flip side. I came directly from undergrad. I did a lot of research in through my 4 years in undergrad, and I mostly did, I was working in a genetics lab. I was actually the only person who knew computer science in the lab. So it's kind of like a learning curve for me to pick up those bioinformatics skills. But at the end, I ended up helping everybody in the lab do their data analysis whenever it had to do with a little bit of coding. So, but my background is mostly hybrid. I do fundamental biology, but I also do computer science on the side whenever I need to. So, and yeah, I didn't work in industry. I just came directly from my bachelor's to the program. So in terms of like the qualifications, they tend to be so diverse. Even a cohort, you can find people from many, many different backgrounds.
That's great. Anyone else?
I can speak briefly. So I did field ecology in undergrad. It was a biology major, but I did not take I only took one intro molecular biology class. So literally, like I was out in the field with honeybees. So the point is, anyone, no matter what your background is, you can apply as long as you have really shown that overall currently your skill set and your background is suitable for computational biology. For example, I needed to strengthen the computational side. So after I graduated, I worked for 2 years at Boston Children's Hospital, kind of like Ima. I was the unofficial bioinformatics person in the lab. I had to learn a lot from scratch, but something like that, even though I did not take many computer science classes in undergrad, still shows that you're interested in computational biology and that you took some steps to try to get closer to this goal, even though you didn't have that training as an undergrad.
It's really great. Anyone else? I think 3 is a good number of people, but if anyone else wants to chime in, yeah. I guess we can keep going then, because I guess we do have a lot of questions. So this was addressed before. Yeah, sorry, the presentation talked about CV, but actually, as Jackie and Emmanuel, I think, pointed out, that actually the application for CSB doesn't have a specific place for the CV. You input line by line. Is that right? Yeah, you input your previous work line by line. That makes sense.
Yeah, you can literally copy paste like sections from your CV onto the application. That's what I did. Yeah.
Yes. Great. Okay, now it's another question for all the panelists. How about people who didn't talk last time? Why did they choose MIT CSB?
Maybe this is a good question to wrap up with, because we were supposed to end at 1, but I can go. So I think for me, it was more about the broader culture rather than research specifically. I really like the Boston area, and I had a lot of friends coming here. I also think MIT has a really good grad student population. Like we have, I think, 6,000 grad students. So we are a school that focuses a lot on graduate education, as opposed to some schools where undergrad education is their main focus and grad students are an afterthought. So like clubs here at MIT include grad students as well, and it's a pretty vibrant population. So that was one of my main focuses.
Yeah, I totally agree with a lot of that. I would also add that just the peers in the program, I love being surrounded by people who are excited about biology and in an interdisciplinary sense, where everything's not about necessarily just proteins and RNA and DNA, but also adding some quantitative splash in there, and you can always like get other people excited about that. So that was one of the main reasons why I chose CSB.
Sorry, I'm just gonna go really quickly. I think for me, it was like the flexibility to do whatever I want. And also, I think MIT, within the Boston area, it has really good resource compared to what I have experienced before in my undergrad. And I think it really allowed me to like explore different areas I've never tried before.
For me, it was a combination of having lots and lots of research options available, having lots of professors that I thought would be really exciting to work with, and like relatively minimal course requirements and a lot of flexibility there to allow me to mostly spend my time doing research.
That's great. Yeah, thank you guys. I think that's a great vignette of why MIT CSB is really special. Yeah. Cool. I guess, yeah, we've gone over time by 10 minutes, but it's great to have all these questions, all this interest in CSB. I hope that this panel has been, and this webinar has been useful to you all. We'll post the recording soon. If you guys have any questions, follow up, I think the best place to reach us would be the CSB email. So official CSB email, CSB Application Assistance Program, CSBAP@mit.edu. I'll send it in the chat. Cool. Thank you all.